Welcome everyone to the channel. We have a very special guest today. We have a Etsy seller who has done 2.5 million in selling on Etsy and Shopify. Her name is Hannah, or better known as Ecom Hannah on YouTube. Welcome to the channel, Hannah.
Thank you so much, Heather. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, it is such a pleasure to have you on. And it's so funny because we were just talking before this that me and Hannah, we have known each other for the past year, and I've been on her channel, but she has yet to be on mine. And she has such a wealth of knowledge in Etsy ad strategy, just scaling an Etsy shop in general, creating products that she knows, would sell, and just a wealth of knowledge here. We have a lot to learn today, and I am so excited to dive into some questions with you, Hannah. First off, for the people who may be new to your channel, if you can give us kind of like a synopsis of your journey with selling on Etsy and Shopify and how you've done 2.5 million now. I want to know. I personally just want to know.
Yeah, for sure. I'll try to keep it short, but basically, after college, I didn't want to get a job. So I never really had like a real job. I like bartended and stuff, but I just always had like an entrepreneurial spirit. And I was like, I'm going to figure this out. And there was really like 3 things that I wanted for my life. I don't know if I've achieved all of them yet, but I wanted time freedom, monetary freedom, and location freedom. And that's not really like a job title or like something that you can like apply for, and then you just like grant this thing. So obviously in like 2018, 2019, I was like, what can I do that would like yield these things? And obviously that, like many people, you hear this story, many people, I'm not like unique to this story, but, you find YouTube, you find other influencers making money online. And so that kind of brought me down a whole rabbit hole of like different types of business ventures. And eventually one thing led to another. And I basically found Etsy and e-commerce from a media buying agency that I was trying to build previously. One of my clients had an Etsy business. And I was like, wow, this is so much easier than like Shopify and Amazon and drop shipping and all of these things. And I basically started my first brand. It was a fast fashion jewelry company. And I had a production partner in Brazil, and I became very close with them. We had the up and up, but before COVID. So when people are like, oh, it's just because of COVID, no, like we actually were hitting really, really great numbers before even COVID happened. And then even there was a little thing that happened, not a little thing, but we got suspended on Etsy, which there's a whole story about that on my YouTube channel, and then how I actually got it back, and Etsy admitted their fault of basically destroying our business for 9 months. And that led us to learning Shopify during the 9 months of our suspension. So we were forced back into learning how to do media buying for e-commerce for a website. So it's kind of like a blessing in disguise, because it made me learn how to run a Shopify engine properly. And 9 months later, we get it back, and then we have Shopify running, but then the iOS update happens on Shopify. And that, if you don't know what that means, basically there was an iOS update with our cell phones that basically kind of ruined the cost per acquisition or your ad cost for running ads on Facebook ads. And so it was like, we got one thing back and then another thing happened. And so it was kind of like this whole journey. And then somewhere in between that, I started a second brand, family brand with my dad. A lot of learning along the way, but all good things.
Yeah, I was going to say, just the experience that you've gained in your time from going from Etsy to Shopify. And I was on Shopify when the cost per acquisition thing happened as well. That's what also led me to quit Shopify, because I was just like, my Etsy shop's doing well. There was so many reasons around the time when I quit Shopify, but that was another reason. I was just like, okay, I will go off of this because I can't even run Facebook ads the way we used to know,
At our height, we were spending $2,000 a day on ads, and it was going great. But basically what it summed up to is, if you were doing less than 10 million a year, your company got screwed basically. Like, unless you were just like this mega big company that was spending, millions of dollars a year on Facebook ads, like you might have been like kindly sort of affected, but like I said, if you were a small business, like, we were, it definitely messed our margin up completely, basically. So
I guess since you have such like a wealth of knowledge as far as ads go, what is your, I guess this me diving kind of deep into it from the jump, but like, what do you spend now on ads for Etsy in your current shop? That's the family owned business.
Yeah, this business, we have our budget set to $1,000 a day, and it probably only will actually spend anywhere between $100 and $150 a day. The nature of that business or that brand is that we're selling extremely high ticket goods. So Etsy ads is something called pay per click, which means you only pay when you actually get the click. So our sale prices, being the top dog of the niche as far as price point goes, we scare away a lot of the clicks, right? Whereas if you compare that to my fast fashion jewelry brand, back in the day, that would spend $600-700 in a day because we were attracting a way bigger customer base to have the potential to earn more clicks, but also our price point was a lot cheaper. So, if I was selling, I give this example, if you're a company that's selling, fake leather over pure leather goods, right? The fake leather or the faux leather is going to be a lot cheaper, which makes your searchability or your clickability more expansive to a bigger group of people that don't want to spend as much money. Whereas if you're selling a $400 pure handmade leather bag, right, the amount of clicks or the opportunity for you to get clicks is going to be a lot less because you're scaring away. There's just a small, in the handbag niche, right? You just made yourself a smaller, basically put yourself in a segment of that niche that's now smaller. A less majority of people want to spend $400 on a bag versus maybe, $40 or $30 for the fake leather bag. So
yeah, that does help. And I know that's kind of it. Like we were saying before, this is with print on demand, since we're looking at way lower profit margins, or maybe it could be similar in some cases, but I know that the products are pretty competitive and we're not at the higher end of a niche. So I guess my next question for you, Hannah, is for someone like me who is selling crew neck sweatshirts, and I'm actually going to bring up my screen share here to share my shop right now and the last 30 days on the shop. But using Hannah's beautiful app, the ProfitTree, you guys can get it in the link in the description below. It is so amazing. I just want to say, Hannah, you really outdid yourself on creating this software because I uploaded my shop. I connected my real Etsy shop that I started in a challenge last year on my YouTube channel in a series, the 21-day listing challenge series. I think I named it Shop Launch Diaries, but during that challenge, I started a shop. And it's still alive. A lot of people ask me if it's still alive or dead. It is still working. It's still alive. I have not uploaded to it in a while, so I am not scaling it or anything, but it does have profit coming in finally. But just to show as an example, I do sell mainly crew necks in this shop. And my question is, what would the ad strategy be best for someone like me as opposed to like the pillows you sell?
Yeah, for sure. So so we know the nature of print on demand is your margins aren't super grand before ads, like 50% or something, like say my one. You're limited based off your production cost of the print provider. So, you have a pretty healthy shop showing here at 29%. You've only, in the last 30 days, you only spent $1.60 an ad. So you virtually didn't really spend much. But for you, it would mean compared to me, where when I set my budget, it's not even spending where I want it to spend. For you, especially being in print on demand, it actually might spend way faster than mine. So that means that the parameters or how strict you're going to be on when you turn things on and off, or in the Etsy ads, it's basically just turning off the ad for the listing, right? You might be more strict than say me. So for right here, if you are sitting at a 29% profit margin virtually before ads, you would want to make sure that your ad cost percentage. So if you scroll down here, Heather, and look at that pie chart, right, you would want to make sure that that ad cost percentage right there really is less than 9%, which is definitely possible. But it just means that you're going to be strict. So if you have thousands of listings, maybe only the top 1% of your listings actually make sense with ads on, right? Where basically the ad spend compared to the top line revenue is less than 9%, if that makes sense. So that percentage that's eating your profit away is still making sense, so that you're still clearing a healthy 20%, which is I would say 15-20%. It's extremely healthy for a print on demand store that you literally don't have to touch the product. Moreover, just all the opportunity that comes with being able to tweak the dials and get that down. But the goal is it's not let me set my budget to $1,000 a day just to increase revenue. Otherwise, like, what are we doing here, right? We're turning on our ads because of the psychological idea that ads contribute to your organic as well. So like if two people are starting a race at the same time, that is print on demand stores with CrewNext, right?
Mm-hmm.
This guy's going along organic, but then this guy is saying, hey, I'm actually willing to spend more than this guy, right? Like this guy might not feel it in the beginning, but over time, especially as competition arises, right? This one's getting more reviews faster, getting more organic indexing faster, right? As more competition arises around, right, this guy's going to feel the competition way more than this guy. So it helps you build a more competitive store as a whole and, for the long term. So yeah, it's painful in the beginning, especially, since your margins are slim. But the idea is that you have to be more strict with your parameters on your spend. And, that's kind of what we're trying to do with ProfitTree. We're trying to make it a visual experience, or maybe better yet, don't even go look at revenue at all. Just rely on ProfitTree, because revenue trips you up. Revenue, and not just revenue, but, this is true for Amazon sellers or anybody selling third party, they're going to manipulate the data to make it seems exciting to the merchant. They're not going to give you the true hard truth about, not that it's not true, but like even the way that in your ads dashboard, even the way that they like calculate things, when you actually look at how they're calculating things, it's not that it's wrong. It's just, they're going to show you what you want to see. Whereas like, it's getting used to actually looking at hard concrete numbers just helps you make actually good decisions in the future. Like it forces you to, honestly, which you're having a better business in the long term. So
I agree. And I guess when you were referencing to the numbers, so that's the next thing I wanted to break down with you. And I guess I'll bring up my example again here of my shop is when we were looking at products and we're looking at the percentage of profit, the ROI, and just like what numbers are the most important metrics when we're looking at maybe increasing our ad budget or turning off a listing for Etsy ads?
So I would say that one of the biggest things that I'm looking at when it comes to comparing my ads to, and we're actually working on a secret tool right now that's going to even make this a better experience for you. So this is a product report, but for ads, you actually probably would want to click on your listing report. So the product report is showing you each unique variation option in the sales. The listing report is showing you a better version of your Etsy stats, but better and easier to sort through it, right? Because in Etsy stats, you literally have to click through like 90 pages, right? So on this page, if you're looking for optimization of ads, what you would want to be doing is looking at the net sales, right? The net sales column, and comparing that to what you're spending for the same time period in your Etsy ads account. Now, ideally, what happens on this page is you have a way to see the spend and your net sales and your operating profit all on one page, right? And we're actually working on producing, making something like that. We have a little bit of limitations with the Etsy API and what we're even allowed to get, but we did find a way that this might be possible, but no promises just yet. But regardless, whether you're using ProfitTree or not, you want to look at your net sales. So what is the top line sales for that listing? And you want to compare it to the spend, and you want to look at that percentage. So this first one that we're looking at, it has a 41% profit margin before ad spend, right? So if you go look at your spend in your Etsy ads for this same listing, and that spend is sitting at a 15% compared to your net sales, that 5170, right? Then you would do 41 minus 15, right? And that's what, 31? No, am I stupid? 41 minus, I don't know, whatever. You get subtracting that cost percentage to actually see what your profit is for that listing. And so that's what I do. So first of all, that's what I do. But maybe for you, you want to be more strict. So that is the case scenario of how I look at things. And if you go into your Etsy marketing tab and you look at spend and revenue on that page, that revenue is actually showing you revenue that is not the same as this revenue. That revenue is showing you all of the revenue that was made from that click. So if they bought different things off different listings, they're incorporating that revenue. So I want to know how did that exact listing perform, right? So how much did I spend and how much did the listing generate me from purchases from inside that listing? And then I'm pulling out that percentage. Yeah. And there's other ways that you can analyze it. Some people like to look at, like, there's another column in there that's operating profit. So you can look at profit versus your spend and do that number as well. So like,
oh, wow.
2137 is like your profit before ads, basically.
I guess my question to you as well, which a lot of people probably have watching this video, is first of all, the common thing on Etsy, or a lot of Etsy sellers and just people in the comments I've been seeing, is that Etsy is maybe too saturated, blah, 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 for selling on in 2024. Do you think that Etsy ads are worth it for kind of beating out competition, or the increased competition we're seeing on Etsy right now?
Absolutely think it's like vital. I think it's going to become more vital, not just on Etsy. I think on any platform. I think it's just the nature is everything is moving to pay to play. And that's going to weed out a lot of the people that aren't willing to pay to play. But fortunately, I mean, honestly, even today, like the people that complain about Etsy ads is because they don't know what else is out there. Like they don't realize the complexity of, or the difficulty, or how expensive it is to get traffic from other places. So Etsy is still by far the cheapest cost per acquisition that I've seen.
I agree. I totally agree with that. I was going to say, when I was on Shopify and I was doing Facebook ads, sometimes it was $10 to $15 per conversion I would be spending. So anytime that I would sell a sweatshirt, I usually paid like $10 to $15 on Facebook just to market it until I got a sale. And that was really eye-opening to me. And I think that was another reason I was like, okay, all the reasons are stacking up to why I'm going back to Etsy for a little bit. Of course, if I upped my prices on the Shopify store, I'm sure I would have made a good profit margin. Or like you said, choosing different products to sell. I could have done that. There was ways.
For Shopify, what I'm seeing that works really well is subscription models. Like you're running ads to something that provokes a subscription, something where you have a good repeat customer rate, where you're breaking even on the first sale, but you can get them to come back time and time again to buy other stuff. Things that just have virality, like they can go viral already organically.
How often should a seller be checking their ads? That's another question I have for you.
It's different per niche. And this is also something that I like to tell people. Like, I try not to look at my ads at least, like, honestly, like once or twice a month. But if you're somebody that's their account's spending really fast, you're going to be more prone to be like looking at it more, especially if you have thousands of print on demand listings, right? It might spend, right? So you might want to look at it once, twice a week if you're somebody in that case. Now, in the beginning, the worst thing that you can do is be getting scared and turning things on and off. You need to look at things from a bird's eye view, month over month basis. So what people do is they turn it on for 4 days and then they say it doesn't work, or they draw a conclusion without giving it enough time. I think anything, any business, you needed months of data, right? Like 4 days is not any data for you to even understand what's going on. So the only exception to that, because there's always exceptions. The only exception is if like a listing spent like $60 in like 4 days, which is just not likely, but if it's happening, right? I guess what your question was, how often you looked at I would say it depends on how fast it's spending. If you're spending, if your budget is set and it's actually spending like 50% of whatever that budget is, that probably means it's gonna spend fast. So I don't know. I would say don't micromanage it, but the goal is long periods of time. You need to see month over month how things perform.
For those who are viewing who have not used Etsy ads, what would your suggestion for a beginner strategy be as far as how much should they spend and for how long should they spend it? If, let's say, minimum budget.
The KPI, the key performance indicator of which you turn things off, is either, really only thing that matters is how much it's spent. Right. So I like to invest at least my average order value, which is about $80. So I will invest. I don't spend, I invest, because you're investing in your business to find answers to make better decisions. I will invest $40 to $70 in a product before I determine if it's good or not. Now, the question after that is, oh, well, what if my prices are $10 or something like that? In your case, if you're somebody with lower margin or lower priced items, maybe your threshold is lower. Your threshold is only $15 to $20, and you have so many listings to test because you have thousands of listings that you're trying to pull out the winners way faster than me, right? Where it's like, I'll let it sit for a while. So for you, you might let it only run, maybe it will spend, pretty fast, and it can spend $20 in 2 weeks. And, if there's no other clear signs of momentum, which I like to look at, it's add to carts. So if it spent $20 to $30 in 2 weeks. So, okay, there's always exceptions to everything. Okay. So time is one. You want to see how things go over time, month over month. Time is one thing. The second thing is spend. So if you do have listings that are taking off in a short period of time and they're spending your threshold, that is whatever you set. So $20 to $30 is now uncomfortable to not be seeing a return. $20 to $30 is now your uncomfortable range. Maybe for you, it's 15 to 20, right? After 15 to 20, you want to make a decision. Okay. And it's only been 2 weeks. Now the exception is to maybe why you wouldn't turn off a young listing that spent your threshold is if there's a momentum. So if you go into an incognito window and look at that listing and the listing has 20 add to carts on it, maybe you just need to give it, another 2 weeks for those conversions to roll in. Right. So the clear sign of momentum is like add to carts and it's spending my threshold. Does that make sense? Hopefully I'm not losing.
Yeah. But I guess for people viewing, my question would be as far as what's like the minimum budget you would set to at least get sales? Like, would it be $1 or maybe $5 or?
So there's pros and cons to both. Like, this is completely up to you. When people ask me this, it's not my decision. It's what you're comfortable spending. Something is better than nothing. And you have to understand the pros and cons of both approach. Less budget means less data being collected, the slower the growth. More budget means, more risky in a sense, but not really, because you have to spend that money anyway to get the answers that you need to make a decision. So I will tell you what I did. When I first launched my first brand, I went in at $15 a day and I never regressed. I only continued to up it. I would up it to 20 and then 25 and then 50. And then you just get more comfortable. And so the idea as well is like, I don't know if you want to pull up your pie chart, or I can share my screen and show you a visual pie chart.
I'll pull
the idea with your ads, if you go to your dashboard, you're not really spending money on ads. So maybe this isn't a good example, but let's just pretend that.
I can go back to, I think earlier this year. I will go to last quarter. I spent some in ads then.
Okay, so here's a 5% marketing cost percentage, right? The idea is like, let's just pretend that Heather was trailing for the last 3 months, a 5% marketing cost percentage, and she was spending $25 a day. Heather, now, if she didn't do any changes to her account, the only thing that she did was increase that budget from $25 to $1,000 a day. The idea is that marketing cost percentage shouldn't then go to 40% because she increased her budget, because she's showing her ads to the same data sample of people at $25 a day versus $1,000 a day. So it's a proportional scaling thing. And the reason that is because of the nature of Etsy ads, which is pay per click. You only pay once you get a click. So if you're showing the ad to the same data sample of people at $25 a day versus $1,000, right, the click-through rate isn't going to drastically change because it's the same product sample to the same data sample of people clicking and viewing your ad. That's one thing I think that ProfitTree does really well, that should give people comfort when it comes to scaling, because they can prove to themselves, okay, like I increased my ad cost percentage and it didn't change my profit. It made me more profit. You know what I mean? It actually makes me more profit. But also, the exception to that is if tomorrow you go and launch 100 new listings and put ads on, and you can see that happening in your ProfitTree dashboard. When you launch a bunch of listings, you'll see your ad cost percentage increase because you have to invest in those listings to pull out the winners. And then it becomes that filtration system of inputting new products, filtering out the best ones, turning the ones off that are not profitable. And that's how you basically do the thing.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's great advice. And that's kind of, I feel like, what people maybe don't hear as often, especially with like the old strategy of put $5 a day on Etsy ads for 30 days. I think that was the strategy that I heard the most. And I did it as well. And I even said it on my YouTube. And that's what I practiced when I first began. I was like, okay, well, this is what people say to do. So I started doing that. And I think that still is viable for the first month. But I think the next thing that I did is, instead of increasing my budget, I kept my budget and I kept my listings still turned on, and I didn't edit any of the listings I had. So I didn't pull out the winners, like you said, and I didn't keep that top 10%, which is kind of funny because I just said that in a training too. I was like, you should only have 10% of your listings with ads on. This conversation makes me want to start ads again. I think I will after this, and maybe we should do a check-in in a few months on the channel. But so I guess last question for you is, do you have any tips for beginners for starting this year as far as Etsy ads go, or just in general, any tips for starting an Etsy shop in 2024?
Yeah, I would say that, especially now, like as the competitive landscape, I think it's even more vital now to really have truthful conversation with yourself on why you want to start a business. Your want has to be greater than like the idea of not doing the thing, if that makes sense. So like you have to actually have like an internal why, because what it takes to really grow, a successful business is on Etsy or anything, honestly, it takes your whole being and your motivation for that thing. Like you're going to give up if you don't have an actual true why pushing you. And it can't be money. It can't be money. Money is not a big enough answer. Oh, I want more money. No, it's about, what does the money do? Oh, I'm going to send my kid to this summer camp, or I want to spend more time with my kids. Like the why has to be something way deeper than just money. And I think that a lot of people getting in just don't have a real why. They just are chasing money. And that shows with how competitive you end up being. Write down, like literally take a pen and paper and write down your why. Why is your motive? Why are you doing this? Why are you going to dedicate thousands of hours to something without getting a paycheck right away? And the people that are really aligned with their whys and that vision of what the infinite potential of what could be are the ones that, you see stick it out through the hard times. So I would just say, have those honest conversations with yourself before you start. Sometimes when we lie to ourselves, you don't want to waste a bunch of time and energy doing something that basically, then is like a failure on your resume, when really it wasn't a failure. It was just you weren't honest with yourself on why you started the thing in the first place.
I feel like I probably stole this quote subconsciously from someone, but I always say now, like, profit follows passion, because it really does, as far as like your why and your ambition. And even like with my Etsy shop, like I feel like at the stage, I just love having my Etsy shop because I'm passionate about it still. Like I'm still passionate about Etsy and print on demand. I mean, I wouldn't have the YouTube if I wasn't, but it's just so crazy to me, because I feel like if I didn't have that why to begin with, or I didn't have that like excitement to create, like I don't know, there's something exciting about being an entrepreneur. And I'm sure you get that all the time too, Hannah, where it's like, oh, there's new products we can sell, and this is a product opportunity, or like a whole shop we can create, and it's just such a fun world to be in, on top of just like your why. And then also like, are you excited about creating products? And that kind of can take you a long way as well. And I feel like I learned so much in this training. I feel like you helped me look at my shop, and I feel like I need to just hire you to manage my ads for the next like few years. Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you. I'm sure we'll have you on my channel again here soon, I'm sure.
Thank you so much for being on the channel, Hannah, and we will all see you in the next YouTube videos. Don't forget to check Hannah's channel out and her podcast. I will have that linked in the description down below. I can't talk to save my life today.